Okay. I'll text her again, though.
Okay.
It's going to you too, Matt, because, you know.
Oh,
It
that's
kind of seems unlike her, though.
so. Am I able to? Oh, I am. Okay. Are we waiting or?
Oh, no, go ahead. I just,
You're fine.
let's go. It's a late night for everybody.
Oh, I am. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm hearing myself echo. Are we waiting or?
Oh, no, go ahead. I just, let's go. It's a late night for everybody.
Oh, I am. Okay.
Okay, that's weird. What are you doing?
Are we waiting or?
Oh, no, go ahead. I just,
Are you guys hearing that?
yes.
Matt, I think you need to put headphones in, or else we're going to hear this conversation over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no, go ahead. I just,
All right, hold on a second.
yes.
Matt, I think you need to put conversation over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no, go ahead. I just,
All right, hold on a second.
Matt, I think you need to put conversation over and over again.
All right, hold on a second.
And then we're going to hear this maniacal laughter in the background over and over and over again.
I think I should mute my mic.
And then we're going to hear this maniacal laughter in the background over and over and over again.
I think I should mute my mic.
We're going to hear this maniacal laughter in the background over and over and over again.
Still going, is it? Sorry, I'm just looking. Still going, is it? Sorry, I'm just looking. Still
Cell phone guy can't find any earphones. Cell phone.
It's weird that it's going around and around. I've never heard it do that before.
Uh-huh. Now it sounds like R2D2.
It's
Cell phone.
weird that it's going around and around. Never heard it do that
Now it sounds like R2D2.
It's weird that it's going around and around. It's like that annoying song you never get out of your head.
You're having a problem.
It's like that annoying song you never get out of your head.
You're having a problem.
It's like that annoying song you never get out of your head.
You're having a problem.
Aw, it stopped.
Oh.
Should we start over?
Thank you for that entertainment, Matthew.
You can go back and watch it later.
Okay. I just might.
Okay, lead us, oh fearless leader.
Yes.
I'm still hearing you.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So back out and
Yeah.
then come back in.
Poor Matt. He's like, wait a minute. You're still going.
That would be
Oh, man.
annoying.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
You'd hear everything 3-4 times.
Oh, I know. Well, it's funny because like I'd say something and I'd hear it again and then again. All right. How's the sound, Matt?
Okay, yeah, that's better.
That's
Hey, so
you're
is
worried
it
about
Matt or Matthew? Which do you prefer?
Depends on how you sound when you say it. So,
Oh, okay.
Matt. We'll go with
Okay.
Matt.
Okay. Well, it's just your thing says Matthew, so I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Officially, yeah, I go by that, but...
yeah. My husband's name is Matthew, but he goes by Matt. So.
Oh, okay. My parents spelled it with one T. Apparently that's the British way. I don't know.
My husband's too. Anyways.
Well, great. Now all kinds of knickknacks have his name spelled correctly.
Oh, I just got a text from Leslie.
And
She's so sleepy she took a Dayquil but feels like NyQuil.
That's funny.
so is she coming or no?
Probably not.
Oh, poor girl.
I know.
So isn't Dayquil supposed to wake you up?
Not wake you up, but it's not supposed to put you to sleep.
Oh, I've never taken Dayquil. I've always taken NyQuil.
NyQuil makes me hallucinate.
Ooh,
So I
that's
never take
scary.
it.
I just
Okay,
take
well.
Benadryl.
I guess we should get started since we're not echoing.
Sweet.
Okay. Phew.
So, did anybody else find the employment at will reading a little
Awful.
dry?
You know, anytime there are a lot of quotation marks in it, it's really hard for me to read it.
Okay.
Does that sound weird?
No,
I mean,
you're
because
right
it's not
about
like
that.
it's not that anyone is actually saying that; they're pulling it from other sources, and it just really messes me up and makes it hard to follow and understand. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So what I did was I actually found a very short YouTube video that explains it pretty well. So I thought maybe we could mute our microphones and then just watch it. It's like 2 minutes long.
Sure.
Yeah,
You want to give that a try?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just posted it on our chat there.
Well, if you want, Matt, you can share your screen and then we can watch your screen.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, if you look over, there should be a little computer with a little arrow on it.
I see that. Okay. Screen share. Wow, this is cool. Can you see it? Okay.
Except we can't hear it.
I think it's because
really?
he has his headphones in.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Like the echoing begin again.
Can you hear that?
Hi, I'm Ray Littleton, an attorney at Foster Swift Collins & Smith. And today we're going to talk about hiring and firing employees in an at-will employment world. Now, as many as you might know, an at-will relationship is one in which the employee and the employer may terminate it at any time for almost any reason. There are exceptions to this at-will employment relationship, and we're going to talk about a few of those today. One of the first exceptions is the Michigan public policy exception. This exception applies where an employee refuses to violate a law in the course of their employment, or the employee is exercising a right conferred by the Michigan legislature, or there is a violation of law specifically prohibiting an adverse action against employees who engage in certain protected activities. Another exception applies where an employer gives a clear and unequivocal oral promise for a just cause employment relationship. Now, a just cause relationship is one in which the employer needs a cause for the termination. That means that they cannot fire the employee for any reason at any time. Here they need a strong cause and a strong reason for the termination. Another exception is the legitimate expectation exception. Now, this exception applies through a two-step process. First, the courts will look at if anything the employer has expressly or impliedly promised to the employees. And second, they'll look at, they must determine whether the promise reasonably is capable of instilling a legitimate expectation of a just cause employment relationship in the employer's employees. So what has the employer promised or provided that legitimately expresses a just cause employment relationship and instills that in the employee? And those are the things the courts will look at under that exception. Now, one more exception to the at-will employment relationship is where the employment contract provides for a definite term. And by this, I mean that the employment contract provides that an employee will work for the employer for a specific period of time. Now, with these relationships, the Michigan law automatically implies that these relationships are for-cause relationships as opposed to at-will relationships, meaning that employers need that reason to terminate the employee and can't do it at any time for any reason like in the at-will relationship. Now, employers should frequently consult with their counsel to best protect themselves before making an employment relations decision or when they need consultation regarding a wrongful termination claim or potential claim. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My phone and email are on the next screen. Thank you.
All right.
You didn't leave his phone number up so we could contact him with questions.
That was pretty cool, though. That video.
YouTube. Okay, so I guess that was still kind of dry, I guess. But I think it clarified it a little bit. So, so Kim, what do you think about the breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing? Have any insights to offer?
Hold on. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to understand this. So it applies to employment situation where employer has acted in the purpose of denying employee benefits accrued through his or her employment. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, as I say, doesn't that fall under the that Family Medical Leave Act? Things like that? Aren't people required to have? I don't know. I guess I don't know. Am I not answering your question? I apologize.
Those rules seem to vary from state to state.
The family medical leave? I thought that was I thought that was like a nationwide thing.
I don't know. So we're talking about like maternity leave and stuff, or? Yeah,
but you can also leave to take care of you leave to take care of family, or if you oh gosh, I thought if you have a child that's like has mental incapabilities, something like that. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it had something to do with that.
I was kind of wondering too, what happens if you leave and then they find a temporary replacement and then you're not needed anymore?
Well, does it depend on if the temporary replacement becomes permanent and replaces you? Or are you talking, you know, they found a temporary replacement, the temporary replacement finishes their assignment, and you know, then they don't have room for either one of you? I mean, what?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Well, it happened to a friend. Well, it happened to a friend of mine. He basically had to beg and beg a company to give him leave to go have a very important operation done, and he was managing a excuse me, a GameStop, like a video game store.
Mhm.
And when he left and had leave and then had to heal and was ready to come back, they brought a guy in to take his place temporarily, but then ended up liking his performance better.
Yeah,
And so
so I don't know if they can do that because it talked
this was
about
in
in this,
Washington.
Really?
Yeah.
because it talks about in here too how one of the exceptions is when you are on you're only working for the company for a specified time limit, and that's what a temporary employee is. It's someone who's working for a specified time limit.
Mhm.
I know when at my work, we hire temporaries sometimes. My job actually started out as a temporary. It was a temp to hire. So they wanted to, make sure that I was going to be a good fit before they offered a full employment status. But we have a lot of temporary employees, and when they set up their when we get the account requisition form that has all their needs and all the information about them, there's actually an end date for when their temporary position will be over. And sometimes we'll get notices that say, please extend this person's accesses for till this date. So sometimes they will extend that, but any temporary employee at our company always has an end date.
Okay.
So, I don't know the circumstances of what your friend went through, but I would say if it's a temporary worker, then there's an end date.
Mhm. I would have to agree. That being temporary, they would understand. Yeah, you're temporary. I mean, I kind of think what they did to your friend is just, I don't know, rude, and whether or not it's legal,
Yeah.
that's just rude.
Yeah, he couldn't get the manager spot back, and they put him in a different location that was like a 45-minute drive, and then he was just a regular, clerk.
Because I thought that when you, if you were taking time because of the FMLA, is that what it is? Family.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Family Medical Leave Act. Yes.
That's
Yes.
FML. A.
Yeah, FMLA.
FML is a funny thing. Anyway, sorry.
I think that when you invoke that FMLA, that your position has to be held for you.
Okay.
And I think that the employers may be able to transfer you to another location possibly, but you would still have that same level of employment. Like your pay can't be docked when you come back. You can't essentially be demoted. I mean, that was kind of my understanding about it, but
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, who knows?
Okay. All right. We have violation of public policy, which was pretty straightforward. So
And we talked about that too in the meeting tonight.
Okay.
That if it's something illegal, that
Mhm.
that you don't have to give them notice. That can be immediate.
Yeah, and that I've had to do that before.
Oh, jeez.
And it's actually I guess if there were a fun or preferred way of letting somebody go, it's that. I don't know. It's easier. It's easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of cleaner.
It's like you stole from us. Like, get your things and get out of here and don't come back. Like, it's clear cut. Everybody knows that everybody knows what's going on. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. Yeah, it's you don't look forward to it, but it's like, it's easier. And then discriminating status. I think we covered some of these in previous chapters, discrimination against age. You know, in that week when we covered all those lawsuits. I can't remember what the document was, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean that reading was enlightening, if not a little dry, I thought. You know, and it really just was, you know, to the law, basically what's allowed and what isn't. All right, so moving on to step 2, what should the manager do? And I'm just going to read a couple of questions, and feel free to respond, or maybe, well, there's 2 here, so maybe Kim will ask you the first one. And then I'll add, if anything, if I need to. But what impact does Terry/Phil have on the company's bottom line, in your opinion? So let's start with Terry.
Well,
what impact would Terry have on the company's bottom line based on his circumstance?
well, because like Terry wasn't working very well. He wasn't reviewing very well. He was kind of a buddy with the higher ups. And you know, my thing is, I think that if you're paying for an employee that isn't bringing you the work that they should be doing, I mean, as far as like hitting the bottom line, I mean, I think, you know, it may not be like, you know, thousands of dollars or whatever, you know, but I mean, you know, a lot of times just that, you know, nickel and diming companies can, you know, have a major effect. So I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you want to employ people that are, you know, that are good and that are going to do their job. I mean, everybody has their off days, but it just kind of seems like he had an off day since he started, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of got the idea that he wouldn't even be working there except his buddies hired him.
Yeah.
And
It was, oh, go ahead.
And so, up until this point, he had kind of been protected.
Well, they were bros. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they bonded over scuba. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, has it ever
but
happened to you guys?
Some of his students, because he was a scuba instructor, and it was his students that were the
CEOs.
the higher up, CEOs and companies vice presidents, and they hired him. I mean, it said in there that they wanted to bring him in for an interview because it was a really fun company. Everyone was flying high. Stock was doing well. It was a great company. Why not bring him in? But he didn't even do well in his interview, and yet they still hired him. And the previous manager, she was giving him 3.5s, which is, you know, kind of what they wanted.
Scraping by.
Yeah, but, you know, you kind of got the feeling that she was only doing it because he was buddies with the uppers.
Yeah, and I can imagine, you know, the manager's thought processes here, because, I mean, they moved her up rather than Rachel.
Yeah.
And then so that's pressure on her to make different decisions than what Rachel would have done. I mean, personally, like right now, I'm in the same situation. I took over a Verizon store. I manage it now, and I've got people that are there right now that I really need to make some serious decisions about. And this couldn't come at a better time, to be honest. This story here. But let's see. Okay, so let's talk about Phil. So Kim, what do you think about Phil? What would his the bottom line? How would he affect the bottom line?
Well, I mean, you know, in the reading it says that Phil wasn't as bad as Terry. You know, I mean, you know, it says he managed to do some things well, like there was almost a road for him, you know, but so I like the fact that it says so Phil actually managed to contribute something to the team. So it wasn't like it wasn't a full person's contribution, but he did, you know, but he didn't have all that background. And you know, and the thing is, it says, you know, he didn't have any engineering, science, or technical background. Where Terry, he was an engineer for GE, and you know, it's, you know, so it's like, you know, I mean, I don't know, I like the fact that Phil at least tried to put forth effort. But I mean, you know, if you're talking about bottom line, it, you know, it comes down to, you know, who's actually going to help the company. You want to surround yourself with good employees. So
Well, and
Yeah.
I liked her suggestion or her thought process. Second paragraph of page 6. I thought we might be able to shuffle things around and take support responsibilities from other people on the team who would actually do more productive work and create a whole person's worth of support job. This would have been beneficial to the team and would have made Phil a whole contributing person. So, she has an idea what to do with Phil. She has no idea what to do with Terry. I mean, there's nothing you can do with Terry that's going to make him a contributing member of the team.
yeah. That's kind of hard.
He doesn't
To be
cut
in that
out for that kind of work. Okay. And then Melanie, what obligations does the manager have to the company based on the information that we're given about Terry and Phil? Do you feel what do you feel her obligations are?
Well, she needs to be able to document everything. She needs to be able to justify her decisions. She can't just say, okay, fire him. I don't really have any good reason, but I just don't feel like he fits in with the team. That's not enough. She needs to have solid evidence, per se, of why.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, her job as a manager is to have her department be productive. It's not to make the CEOs happy about keeping their friend on. It's to make it the most productive, to get the most profit, make the company as profitable as possible. And if you've got a couple of Klingons, that's not going to happen. You're not utilizing your full capabilities. I mean, she could fire one of them and then hire somebody else totally more competent and capable of performing the job, and already you're boosting productivity.
That's true, but I think that there are some challenges that the manager faces, and that is from a legal standpoint, because we've talked about what employers can and can't do when it comes to firing in reference to the employment at will, but there are exceptions. And so with Terry, I'm thinking that we're going to possibly run into some age discrimination issues, maybe. He has kind of a contract as well. And with Phil, you have a possibility that he's going to maybe go right for the disability discrimination. Do you guys feel that those are possibilities?
Well, there's always the possibility of being sued. One of the differences between the two guys is that Phil was on a PIP and Terry was not.
Yeah.
And that that's one thing we talked about in the class discussion tonight, is that you can't fire somebody without talking to them first. Terry may have, although I think it did say that he knew he wasn't a very contributing player on the team, but you still have to have that conversation with them, and you can certainly create a PIP for them and outline, this is what needs to happen in order for you to keep your job. And like we talked about a couple weeks ago with the discipline, it's taking those, essentially you have to follow all the different steps before you can arrive at whether or not you're going to fire them or retain them. But I don't think that a PIP alone, because didn't it say they basically used them to in preparation for people to be fired?
Yeah, that was true. Yeah, there really wasn't any coming back from a PIP.
Right, and it shouldn't be like that. My husband had one several years ago, and we were very concerned that he was going to lose his job over it. It was a mistake that, somebody had to be blamed, and he happened to be working that night when the mistake happened. And, so he got put on, I'm not sure if it was a PIP or, it was something very similar to it. But yeah, we were very concerned he was going to lose his job over it. But it ended well, and, he kept his job and actually left the job, went to another job, and then got rehired back the same job. So.
Wow.
it wasn't the means to an end, like in this particular
That had a
case
good,
study.
that
Yeah.
had a happy ending. Okay. Great. Well, we've covered financial obligations, possible legal obligations. The final part for this step would be covering some of the ethical, obligations that the manager has. Do you guys think that she has any sort of ethical obligations to either one of these gentlemen?
I would say the ethical obligation she has is to, when they're doing whatever they rate them on evaluations, I think she has an ethical reason to evaluate them honestly. Like, whenever I had employee evaluations, they weren't all like rosy, but it sure made me grateful for those few individuals who are bold enough to say, no, you sucked at this, you need to do better, because it showed me that, okay, this is what I can fix. So I personally think that she needs to be honest in that aspect.
I agree. With employee evaluations, it makes you feel good to get straight fours across the board. However, that doesn't leave you any room for improvement. I mean, you need to, as much as it hurts to be criticized, you need to know what you can improve on.
Hmm.
It makes it really hard to continue in a job where you feel like there's nowhere for you to go. You're already at the top, performance-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So I would you guys think that the ethics really lie between herself and the company, because she has her own ethical stand that she makes right there at the beginning of the reading. Actually, she says, I'm open and honest, maybe sometimes too much, but that's really the best way to be. And then she's looking to increase profits for this company. So she's really having to walk this fine line with the ethics there. And then you have to consider these employees in their particular situations. Right here. Oh, go ahead.
You can't, was it in this? Or was it something that Brother Bonnie said, that you can't make decisions with your heart?
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
A good, I'm always a sucker for a good sob story. But, it can't influence your decision on what's best for the company as a whole. Yes, Phil, was he a single dad? No, he was married, he had a little girl.
Yeah.
He had some kind of
sickness,
liver problem that was really bad. So already, your heartstrings are going, and you're like, you don't want him to lose his benefits, you don't want him to lose his job, he needs the money.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not going to be the best choice for the company, I'm sorry, maybe we can offer you a great severance package. Maybe we can continue your benefits for 6 months.
Well, they already kind of went all out for him, too.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, now as far as some of the human resource practices that may have been employed in her processes here, I want to just kind of go through a couple of questions we can, just maybe quickly talk about. We don't have to go that deep into them, but if you guys feel that the company, in reference to the HR practices, where they were at here. So the first one is, how well is the company in the case doing with its human resource practices, generally speaking?
I don't think they do very well. I mean, if they're putting people on these PIPs, it's really supposed to give them a chance to improve, where really it's not. They're like, oh, we're going to put them on a PIP and we can fire them after a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So she's right on the money with how she doesn't like the PIPs then.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
me too.
I mean, I think they can be effective. You just have to use them the right way, and this company is not using them properly.
Okay. How are they doing with hiring in reference to human resources?
Well, Terry should probably not have been hired based upon how he interviewed. You know, I mean, this has nothing to do with like he was buddies with so and so. I mean, like if I went in for an interview, you know, I mean, and I guess I really haven't interviewed, but you know, I mean, I think that a person should get a job on their own merit,
Sure.
not someone else's. I don't know. But,
And maybe not after 5 fails,
yeah.
where all that's needed is 3.
Right.
Yeah, okay. What about how they manage people and give feedback?
I
Or
don't
do
think
you see
I don't think that they have been giving feedback up until
non-existent? Yeah.
right. It has been non-existent, but now this new manager, did it ever even give her name?
No, they don't. She's
I don't
just
think
known
so.
as the manager.
So now with the new manager, she says she's blunt. You know,
Mhm.
she tells it how it is. That's what needs to happen. You know, you can't have people not know what they need to improve on, or know what they're doing good, know what they need to stop doing. You've got to have feedback.
Okay. Do you guys feel like the employees there get a clear picture of how they're performing?
I don't know.
I don't
I-
think they,
I don't
think they do.
Yeah.
You know, it says that they do reviews every 6 months, but I don't think they're using that review time properly.
No, I think they're kind of fluffing some of them, especially in Terry's case,
Yeah.
because they're having them review themselves, right? And so Terry's like, oh, well, I'm going to expect a 3.5 out of you, or a 3 because that's what I give myself, or whatever.
Hmm.
So there's no accountability, I feel like, when it comes to the performance there. And then we already kind of touched on it. One of the questions is what is the PIP for? You know, it really is maybe a little bit more of a cushion, you know, as opposed to you're fired, you know.
Mhm.
Like, I can't, that's my best Donald Trump impression. But, and then do you guys agree with the way that the company is using PIPs?
No.
Well, they're too excessive. So they.
Okay.
Is that what you
feel
were
like,
saying, Melanie? That they're doing too many of them?
Well, no, not that they're doing too many of them, but they're using them as a hiring or a firing mechanism,
Yeah.
and not as a. Because what does PIP stand for? A personal
stands-
improvement process.
Personal improvement plan.
Yeah. So
which
they're
it's
not
not
using
that.
it right. They're not
Yeah.
using it as an improvement plan. They're using it as, oh look, you're going to be fired.
Did you guys catch what inspired that company to do that?
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that? So the company I work for, my boss started Microsoft with Bill Gates.
Interesting. Yeah,
So,
I think you mentioned that too. That's interesting.
So when my husband, who works for the company, got put on a PIP, surely it was a carryover from Microsoft, and that's what I thought of when I was reading this. That that's something that I'm sure Mr. Allen brought over when he started his own company.
Hmm.
So.
Interesting. We're
But
critiquing.
we had a better outcome, right? My husband kept his job. It truly was a
Okay.
performance.
PIP.
Yeah.
Okay. It just wasn't a necessary step for firing,
Right.
as this company uses it for. Okay. And then finally, do you think this manager can make good decisions about these 2 individuals, or does she seem to be influenced by biases that will be hard to overcome?
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of biases because didn't she say someone that she was going to rate him at this, and they're like, no, don't do that, rate him at this or something like that. But I don't know.
Well, she was getting some blowback from some of the higher ups when her score on Terry went through.
Mhm.
because it said that she passes it up so that everybody can see it before she tells Terry, which is also a weird system, I think. I don't know, because she's the one making the decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right,
So
but
they like
there's always going to be pressure from people higher than you. You know,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
they've
yeah.
got their own agenda, and if you don't fall in line with it, they're going to pressure you. I mean,
Oh,
on
yeah.
page 6, it talks about that her boss had a personal vendetta against Phil, wanted him out of there because Phil had butted heads with him too many times.
Hmm.
You know, that's just not cool. And I actually encountered something like that when I worked for the school here in the cafeteria. And there was a lady, we were shorthanded and they needed to hire, I think there were like 2 food service positions that were open. And we had this one lady we really liked that had been subbing. And we're like, yeah, you need to apply for the job. It's going to, you know, it's great. We'd love to have you work for us or work with us, you know, because we didn't have any influence in the hiring. And I sat in on the interview panel and I had to, you know, circle my little numbers of how well she answered the questions, where I thought she was at. And at the end, I recommended that she be hired for the position over a couple of the other candidates. Well, come to find out, the superintendent had a vendetta against her over something that had happened several years ago, where they had butted heads. And the superintendent laid down the law and said that this lady was never going to be hired in the school district.
Wow.
So she was fine to be a sub, but she was never going to be given that position. Which I, you know, and I probably shouldn't have done it, but after I quit working at the school, I saw this lady later, and I said, oh, so did you ever get hired on? And she said, no, I'm still in a sub position. And I said, you know, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but, you know, this is what happened. And she's like, yeah, I figured it was something like that. But now that superintendent isn't there anymore. It's somebody else. So I haven't seen her since the new superintendent came on board. But, yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, that story's all too familiar. Yeah. Okay. So, let's pretend we are the manager.
Are
And
we role-playing?
no, we're not role-playing, unless you really want to.
No.
Melanie's favorite thing.
But Melanie, I want to ask you right here and now, what would you do with Phil and or Terry?
Well, Terry, I would let go because I don't feel like he can contribute to the team. Phil, I would keep on, and as I suggested earlier in the reading, that I would rearrange things, shift responsibilities to create, so that he could be a fully contributing member of the team. I like that idea.
Okay.
I agree.
What do you think, Kim?
No, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, looking at the two, I would, like, when it was like money, I would get rid of Terry. He just isn't really doing much of a job, even though he has a degree. So, and I like the idea of what Melanie said to do with Phil. I think that's awesome.
So there's no way that you could see where you would want to keep Terry around. There's no reason or redeeming quality at all.
No.
Okay.
Not compared to Phil.
All right. Good enough for me. Are you ready for the rest of the story that you may or may not already know?
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you right now, it goes from happy to bleak.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So let's talk a little bit about Terry. So I decided, I'm just going to read it for you guys. So I decided to give Terry a 2.5. I was very scared about doing that. I sat him down before the performance reviews came in and I said, Terry, let's talk about what is going to happen when you get your review back. I'm going to give you a 2.5. He said what I thought I would get a 3.0. Terry said he knew he wasn't going to get a 3.5, but he was definitely not happy about my plan. I talked with him and said he had recently hired a lot of people who are really superstars. I reminded him that on interviews, my no hire rate was about half of what most people's were. We now had really good people on the team, and he acknowledged this. I said things like, Terry, let's look at who we're hiring. What do you think about Michael? He would say, yeah, Michael is a superstar. He's really great. He said the same thing about several others. Then I said, these are the people that we are hiring onto this team, and this is the new makeup of the team. How do you think you compare against these people on the team? He was honest and said I couldn't do what they could do. And I said, do you want to be constantly on the edge? You know there is a forced curve here. Do you want to be on a team where you are the weakest link on the team? Is that good for your career? Then I added that if I was on a team, I wasn't one of the top performers, I wouldn't want to stay on that team. I said I would feel like I was spending all my time floundering. He seemed to accept that. So I said, Terry, listen, what happens after a 2.5 is that you get a PIP. I'm not going to put you on a PIP, and I don't want to put you on a PIP. I don't think it's respectful of people to put them on a PIP. I mentioned someone else who was fired, and I told Terry this guy is on a PIP and reminded him of how the guy was escorted to his office and got a half hour to clean out his desk. I said, Terry, I'm not going to let you go down that path. I like you as a person, and that's just dumb. But if you're not doing well on this team, I can tell you as both a friend and a manager that for your sake, this is not a good position for you to be in. So let's get past the PIP. Let's forget about all of that. I want to help you find a better job in the company, and if you can't find one, then why don't you go out with a party, a big bang, with your head held high so that you were never on a PIP. It was a pretty heavy conversation, but he seemed to like the result of it at the end. I think he liked the fact that I told him he wasn't going on a PIP and that I wasn't going to do that to him. He asked how long he had, and I said, well, we both know you've had enough time to find another job. If I'm not going to put any hard deadline on it, or I am not going to put any hard deadline on it, why don't you give it an honest, fair shot? I don't know what that is, maybe 3 months or something. I'm not going to give you a date, but I would think that in 3 months, if there is a position for you in the company, you could find it. I told my boss what I was doing. Terry spent time looking for another job, but everyone would go and ask his peers about him, and none of them had good feedback about Terry, so he couldn't get another job in the company. We had a big party for him. He wrote a letter to everyone saying that he was moving on to spend more time on scuba, which was his real passion. Eventually, he got a job in an engineering company and was promoted to manager. I heard he was doing a great job there because it's pure engineering, math, and equations, which doesn't require analytical decision-making. He considers me a friend, and we keep in touch, so that is what happened with Terry. All right. Not so happy with Phil. Are you ready? Is this the part they spoiled?
No, they just told us about Terry, so we know nothing about Phil.
We know nothing about Phil.
Oh, right. Okay. Letting Phil go would have looked like we were firing him because he had been sick. Plus, he had been sick, and you don't fire a guy like that. And you just rallied the whole company around this guy, and everyone is so glad that he survived, and he became untouchable. What happened is that when he was gone, we hired a replacement for him, and I asked HR what happened when he got better and was coming back, and HR said they would create a new slot for him. So when he came back, he had already been replaced. He was just an extra person on the team. It wasn't really a problem for me, except for the time it took to manage him. I also had to make him happy. He'd been there for a long time, and he had never been promoted, so I had to manage his expectations. I gave him a 3.1 on his reviews. The time it took me to manage him wasn't a big deal, so that was basically it. Because he knew my boss had a vendetta against him, he decided to leave the soft goods team when I left the company. He moved to another team. It took him because he was a free slot. I think he ended up on the international team, which was the only team that would take him, because no one wanted to work on the international team. Their job was just to take the basic product and make it French-friendly or German-friendly. We continued to be friends, and I heard he kept getting 3s. About a year later, he was diagnosed with an inoperable brain cancer. Then he had to leave the company for good. He died not too long after that.
Wow,
You
that is
made up
bleak.
that last part.
No, I didn't. So Phil
Well-
died.
That's sad.
He didn't lose his job, though. You know,
Mhm.
No.
he was still able to stay employed and have a the medical benefits that he so needed, and
Yeah.
but he never was a top performer.
Nope. He died mediocre.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
I figured that was the part that they spoiled.
No, it was about Terry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that anything about Phil.
I figured it was an either or. She was going to fire one or fire the other. And
That's what I thought too.
So, do you guys any final thoughts on what can be learned from this case study about decisions decisions to terminate?
sometimes you have to take a hard stance, and you have to do what you know is right and not give in to outside influences.
Okay. And sometimes you wait it out, and maybe they'll die.
Oh, jeez. But I mean, like, if you think about it, okay, so looking back at the story, what happened if she fired Phil and left Terry? Okay, well, Phil would have died, however long. So it's just like which would have been better. But anyways.
Yeah.
But by kind of putting Terry's dismissal in his hands, he got to go back to doing something that he really loved doing.
Mhm.
And he got back to his engineering roots, and he was very good at that. He became a manager. Sometimes you have to allow people, you have to give the tools back to them. And, do you think that initially Terry really wanted to work at the company? Or was he kind of pressured by his friends to come and interview and, even though we bombed the interview, we're still going to hire you? Maybe he wasn't that type of person who could turn around and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I really don't want to work here.
Hmm.
Maybe he was just going along for the ride, and that by having the manager put the decision making back in his hands, that it empowered him.
It did, yeah. Have you guys seen that movie Up in the Air?
Mm-mm.
I don't. Oh wait, is that George Clooney?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about
It's really good. He basically just flies around and fires people. But he does it really clever ways where he'll like turn it around on them and make them think it's their idea. So that's what that reminded me of. Because he's like, oh, do you really see a future here? Is this really what you want to do? And yeah. So this chapter's taught me a lot, just because I'm probably gonna have to fire somebody. So,
Well, I'm glad that you had this one to lead then. And to...
Oh yes.
Yeah. Get an opportunity to study up on it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys being flexible too.
Oh, not a problem.
Sure.
I mean, you know how our Driggs is, Kim. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just feel bad for poor Leslie. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, Leslie's sick, right? Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep coughing into my mic. I'm getting over it. It's going around.
Oh,
I
geez.
will send Leslie an email too about the doohickeys and the information that we got tonight on the final and that stuff. Because
Cool.
I'd hate for her not to have that information.
Yeah. Well, and then if you wouldn't mind asking her, she'd be willing to come up with a solution for Matt and a solution for myself.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure that won't be a problem.
No, it was just one solution each. So, and she can rewatch this video if she has any questions about what we discussed. So.
Right. Yep.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me. So.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
You guys have a good evening.
You as well.
See you later.
Yes. Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.